Well, a very good Sunday afternoon to everybody. It is a beautiful sunny day here in Zephyr Hills, Florida, and I hope that wherever you are doing well. And I want to spend some time in the Gospel of Matthew today, with it being Sunday. And we've actually come to the point in Matthew, really the climax of the Gospel account. And we're going to be picking up in Matthew chapter 27 today, beginning in verse 27. What we've seen recently is everything leading up to the death of Jesus, and we have finally come to that point where this all is unfolding and is going to happen. And as we finish out Matthew 27 today, and we've seen Jesus previously in chapters 26 and 27, Jesus is betrayed, he is falsely arrested, he is mocked and beaten and ridiculed. He is unfairly tried by the Jews. He is then tried by Pilate, and Pilate does try to get Jesus released. I think in the Gospel of John, that is going to be borne out even more. We'll spend some time in the Gospel of John in the future. But Pilate does for a while try to get Jesus to be released, and one way he does that is he tries to get the people to release Jesus instead of Barabbas. But the people's hearts were so hardened and deceived that they would rather have Barabbas, a notorious criminal, set free than Jesus, who had done nothing wrong. Pilate ends up giving in to the political pressure of the Jews, washes his hands of the matter, and gives in to the people's wish for Jesus to be crucified. We pick up in Matthew 27 and in verse 27 today, and really Matthew's account, it seems, at least the way Matthew has ordered things here, that after Jesus is sentenced to be crucified, that Pilate then has Jesus scourged here, as we're going to see. Or actually, I've got that backwards. Jesus has already been scourged. Actually, this is a little different here, getting the Gospels mixed up. But here, after Jesus has been sentenced to be crucified, we're told in verse 27 that the soldiers of the governor, Pilate, they took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole garrison around him, and that was a lot. A garrison would have been, several hundred plus soldiers. So they're gathered together in the governor's headquarters, the praetorium, and all of them gather around Jesus, and they strip Jesus of his clothes, and they put a scarlet robe on him. And when they had twisted a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And even the Roman soldiers spat on Jesus and took a reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they took the robe off of him, put his own clothes on him, and led him away to be crucified. I want us to really think about, all that happens to Jesus, all that's happened to Jesus already, and now as we read all of this that Jesus is going through, he's already been mocked and beaten and spit on by the Jews, and now he's been scourged already by the Roman soldiers. Now he's being mocked and spit on and beaten by the Roman soldiers. Jesus, who had done nothing wrong. Jesus, the very Son of God, come to this earth. And this is how he's being treated. This is what they're doing to him. And so then, once the Roman soldiers have had their fun, and they now bring Jesus out, verse 32, and Jesus apparently was not strong enough physically from all that he had been through. his weakened physical state, that the soldiers find a man of Cyrene as they're passing by, as they're traveling down the road. Jesus started by, carrying his own cross, but again, physically could not carry it any further, not easily anyway. So they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name, and him they forced to bear the cross of Jesus for him. And when they had come to the place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull, they gave him sour wine, mingled with gall to drink. But when he had tasted it, he would not drink it. I think I read somewhere that this, mixed with gall, the idea was to alleviate, the pain and to really make them last longer. But for some reason, Jesus refused it. He refused this help, this medicinal, if you will, help. And then it says, verse 35, that they crucified him. Such a simple statement for something that was utterly horrifying. To simply say they crucified him is just really does not tell all that it involved. And laying him down, stretching his arms out, nailing his arms to the wood, these spikes being driven through his hands, his wrists area. Can't imagine what those blows must have felt like. And then being hung up and then having his feet nailed to the cross. Can't even imagine the pain, the agony, the suffering, the pure torture that there must have been. But that is what they did to Jesus. They crucified him, and then they divided his garments, casting lots that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. Matthew shares really all of the prophecies fulfilled, or a lot of prophecies fulfilled by Jesus. And this was another one. And sitting down, they kept watch over Jesus there, and they put up over his head the accusation written against him, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 robbers were crucified with Jesus, one on the right and another on the left. So now there are 2 criminals who are placed on either side of Jesus. Criminals who deserve to be punished. And then there's Jesus right in the middle, who was completely innocent. Jesus had no place there among those robbers. Jesus had done nothing wrong to be humiliated so and to be killed, be punished. But there he is, hanging on a cross between 2 criminals. And those who passed by blasphemed Jesus, wagging their heads and saying, "You who destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." Likewise, the chief priests, also mocking with the scribes and elders, said, "He saved others. Himself he cannot save. If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God. Let God deliver him now if he will have him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And then even the robbers who were crucified with Jesus reviled him with the same thing. People were going by ridiculing Jesus. The leaders of the Jews were ridiculing Jesus. The robbers were ridiculing Jesus. I think even another gospel account tells us the soldiers were mocking Jesus. Everybody was mocking and blaspheming against Jesus on the cross. And what strength and love and mercy and grace must it have taken for Jesus to remain on that cross. How easy it would have been for Jesus to come off of that cross and to prove every single one of them wrong. How easy it would have been for the Father to deliver Jesus from that. How easy it would have been for Jesus to do exactly what they were challenging him to do. But he didn't. He suffered, and he bore it all. Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness over all the land. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? And some of those who stood there when they heard that said, This man is calling for Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on a reed and offered it to him to drink. The rest said, Let him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come to save him. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Jesus had just died. Jesus now has tasted the bitter taste of death, suffering and pain. And notice what happened when Jesus died. Verse 51, Then behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked and the rocks were split, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. It's as if even the earth reacted to the death of Jesus. These bodies had been raised from the dead of saints. Imagine that. You know, we're going to talk about the resurrection of Jesus, but here we have a resurrection of some saints who get to go back to their families, and they'll one day have to die again, but they're raised from the dead for a time. Then notice the reaction of the centurion. And actually even go back, verse 51, the veil of the temple. That is so important. The veil of the temple was torn in two because that is what Jesus was doing. Jesus was making the way for us to have access to the Father and his grace. Taking the veil out of the way, taking the law of Moses out of the way, and bringing us the hope of eternal life through him, through Jesus. Notice verse 54, when the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and the things that had happened, they feared greatly, saying, Truly, this was the Son of God. Even they could see something significant happened there at the death of Jesus. And they declared him to be the Son of God. And many women who followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, were there looking on from afar, among whom were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. So many of the women who had been traveling with Jesus and following him, caring for him and the disciples, they watched and saw all of this happening. How hard that must have been for anyone of Jesus' followers to be watching and to see what happened to Jesus. Now when evening had come, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus, and then Pilate commanded the body to be given to him. When Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock, and he rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb and departed. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary sitting opposite the tomb. This man, Joseph of Arimathea, a disciple of Jesus, comes out of nowhere, as it seems. As the other Gospels tell us that he was a secret disciple of Jesus. But now he comes and he honors Jesus in a special burial. In his own tomb, a freshly cut tomb for himself. It was supposed to be for Joseph, this rich man. But that is where he was willing to bury Jesus, and fulfilled prophecy that Jesus would die with sinners but be buried with the rich. He lovingly, honorably, respectfully, sacrificially cared for the body of Jesus and honored Jesus in that way. And the women, of course, saw, these Marys saw where Jesus had been buried. And we'll see them come back later. But the final thing that happens after Jesus is buried on the next day, so this would have been Saturday. So Jesus was crucified on Friday. On Saturday, the next day, which followed the day of preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees gathered together to Pilate, saying, "Sir, we remember while he was still alive, how that deceiver," they called Jesus, "said, 'After 3 days I will rise.' Therefore command that the tomb be made secure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away and say to the people, 'He has risen from the dead.' So the last deception will be worse than the first." And so Pilate said to them, "You have a guard. Go your way. Make it as secure as you know how." So they went and made the tomb secure, sealing the stone and setting the guard. So the Jews, the leaders of the Jews still aren't done. They're worried that the disciples of Jesus are going to come and to further promote what Jesus was saying. They might come steal Jesus' body and say he was risen from the dead. And so they want that tomb sealed and guarded that no one can steal the body of Jesus. And what is ironic, what is funny, and what is awesome about that is that just solidifies even more what's going to happen next. And we'll talk more about that next week. But right now, what we've seen today is we're reminded of all that Jesus went through. From the time Jesus was betrayed and arrested, he faced mocking, beating, spitting on him, hitting him, ridiculing him, blaspheming him, shame, humiliation, torture. He died a most horrible death on the cross. And Jesus tasted death. Jesus died. And for a time, Jesus was dead. For a time, Jesus was in the realm of the dead. For a time, Jesus' family and disciples were brokenhearted, seeing their son, their brother, their master, their teacher treated this way and executed. Now take a moment to think about all that must have been going through the disciples' minds and hearts, and the mother of Jesus, his family, his friends, his loved ones, his disciples. How hard that must have been. You know, it's easy for us to jump to the good part, where we're going next. We need to spend some time in the bad part. Spend some time in the grieving, in the suffering, in the death of Jesus. and to remember what all he went through for us, to remember all of this happened for you and for me. Jesus, everything that he went through, everything that he suffered, his death on the cross, he did not deserve. You and I do. But Jesus took it all. He bore it all so that we wouldn't have to. Remember that. Remember Jesus. Remember his body and blood. Remember his sacrifice, his death. Remember what God has done for us. God bless.